What's up, everybody? Marhan13 here. Finally glad to be back. My little brother's finally gone. Along with there's gonna be about 3 videos coming out whenever I can. Since for my college classes, one of them says I need to have a digital portfolio online, and so I'm just using the channel. So yeah, more honestly, more videos are going to be coming out because now it's part of my damn grade. If I don't do it, I possibly could fail one of my classes. Which, we don't need that. So, yeah. Which would also help if you guys like and subscribe. Since, if you like my content and want to see more, and I already know if you just comment the fact that you want to see more, even a like. You really don't have to subscribe if you don't want to. Since, obviously it's your choice, but even a like will tell me that you just want more of content. So, yeah. Don't mind the air, that's the air. That's the air in the room, the house. But yeah, fuck it. Let's get into this. Welcome to Carnitrix Part 4. Well, we end up where we last left off with the multiple versions of the Zuko, Lincoln, Ben, and realistically some other Omnitrix wielders, and along with people that weren't Omnitrix users, just standing down. The 2 poor versions of Lincoln and Zuko got caught in hell. Which, yeah, wait a minute, did part 4, I probably should watch the end of part 3 to see how this went, but I'm fairly sure this ended off with them cornering them after they transformed back from Heat Blast. So after that fight, we see the Carna and Purgatrix activating once again. Except this time, green and orange electricity spewing out before the 2 are lifted up in the air, with their skin eventually being replaced with the black and white void of Ale and X. Now then, all of the ones that know of the Celestial Sapien transformation are what could be best described in a state of fear. While yes, they know that the watch is way weaker than a normal Celestial Sapien from the Omnitrix, still, this is a reality warper with nothing holding it back except the only thing that's going on is murderous intent. Which doesn't take long for the 2 monsters to charge a green and orange energy beam before closing their hands in it, sending off a blast the equivalent of a nuke out. And nuking the entirety of the battlefield, surrounding everyone in the bright green glow. Which, as we see the smoke finally coming down, we see our Lincoln and Zuko waking up. Except when they try to propel themselves up, they feel a sharp pain as they fall down and look to see. For both of them, their right arms are missing, while up to the left hand, it was protected by the Omni and Omegatrix, but they're still missing their hands. While they're in shock of this, they turn their heads to see another version of them that survived the onslaught and attack, bloodied, bruised, and beaten, only to be immediately killed by the celestial monsters. Basically, Sukuna's cleavance dismantle, that. They could turn to pieces immediately, or more as if their top half of their bodies were erased. In the stories, that leaves a bloody mess with the 2 corpses falling down. Terrifying the 2 as we zoom up over the battlefield to see just the carnage and damage. So many versions of them lay dead on the floor, violent, mangled, while something happens from rubble as ice and purple electricity burst through the seams. As we see our main Clyde and Chandler surviving somewhat. Except this time something's different, with Chandler's electricity now being purple and Clyde having black marks surrounding his body. Which, if you want a comparison for Clyde, look at Gray's Ice Devil Slayer mode, and boom, there you go. And thus, as it severs half across their body, as they look up and see the carnage, but still are ready to fight anyway. As long as any other version of them that aren't too badly hurt or dead, of anyone there, starts to get up. And thus we see Link and Nezuko singing this, with them basically forcing themselves to move, knowing that if they don't get up, what will happen? Will everyone here die? Will the multiverse be slowly erased by these monsters, until other celestial sapiens step in? They don't know. They can't know. They have to do something now. And thus reaching within themselves, they feel the burning flames of One for All. And thus using, as they remember the words of Diagro? I know I'm butchering his name. Diagro, yeah. Diagro. Grow. Look, the fourth. Yeah, no, the fourth. As they start spewing black whip from everywhere in their body as they can. Along with the fact that black whips tearing into the ground, wrapping around their bodies to make themselves move. And for their missing appendages, they use a black whip to basically push through the muscles of what's left of their right arm and hand before forming appendages themselves and of a black whip arm and hand. Basically, overlay mode, early, technically, with them looking seriously rabid, but still, as they think, along with lifting up the Omni Omegatrix and activating it to activate their own celestial sapien form. As we see the two slam down, as we see a growing green and orange light basically form the scene, along with the fact that when it goes down, we see our two main versions transformed into Alien X, with Lincoln saying Alien X and Nezuko saying Celestial. As we get into the two's mind space, with Belsis and Serena telling them that they finally got to meet them, along with the fact that they have this one freebie to use, and the next time they'll have to be here to discuss. And so they take it. Almost in less than a second, we see the two celestial sapiens basically blink into existence. Well, more like blinking right. The moment you blink, you see them right in front of the two rabid celestial sapiens before sending them flying, before teleporting in front of them and slamming them down to the ground. With the two rabbit monsters trying to fight back, shooting out energy blasts, but are easily counteracted and outright negated by the two godlike beings. As we see Alien X lays his hand before just making a straight finger, before making a finger gun and shooting out an orange beam of light at the two, which engulfs them and sends them flying back into an orange explosion, with Zuko raising his hand and bringing down stars. I don't know. Yours are stars. Fuck. Star. Basically summoning stars and sending them to shoot down like rockets. Basically, well, I mean, I don't really need to explain. The two celestial sapiens getting whacked with stars and having them explode on contact, along with the two finally shooting out one last energy blast to send up a massive explosion, which thus in turn leads to a giant, the two celestial sapiens transforming back. And at this moment, we peek into Ben and Azuku's headspace, which they share, by the way, with Bellicus Serena telling them that now's the time to kill them, with Link and Azuku obviously refraining against that, screaming at the two that is the way this is going to go, and that they're saving them no matter what. Before we see them bring their hands back and send out a blast, which engulfs the two. Which leaves this version, Link and Nezuko with burns and scars, yes, but notably they're both missing their left arm. The watch firmly eviscerated from the blast itself. And with that, Lincoln was... Again, Bellicus Arena tried to get them to listen, but they told no before raising their hands and snapping. Which basically sends off a wave that brings everyone that was killed back. Since they realize that if they're basically God right about now, then everyone here deserves a second chance after putting their lives on the line. And thus, everyone is brought back, along with the fact that when they de-transform back, we see Link Nezuko with a new hand and arms. Still covered in scars. Obviously, before the two walk up to their carnitrix version of themselves, while still beaten and mangled, which they didn't heal everyone. They brought them back to life, but didn't heal them. Okay, in terms of bringing them back to life, they brought the ones that were dead back to life and healed them enough to where they'll be stabled. And if anyone lost any appendages or body parts, well but they're not fully back to what they were before the end of the fight. Since Link and Nezuko wanted to get out of there as fast as possible. So yeah. And with that, we see the two walking to the now armless versions of themselves. While they look up. The dead inside look, but otherwise scared and terrified of being... But, well, you would expect terror, but in their eyes it shows that they're just waiting for them to be killed, for them to finally be released. Which, after erasing the Omni Omegatrix, the boy Link and Nezuko transform before making a makeshift hand. With them walking up to their two alternates and telling them to just hold still and that this is going to hurt for a bit, but hey, since, well, it's reconnecting nerves and stuff. And thus, they use the vine fire plant aliens to attach new arms and hands to them. Which, yeah, they didn't really feel the pain, though, as, well, after all the pain they'd gone through thanks to the Carnitrix and Predatrix, they're fine. And with that, they look at their new hands, telling their alternate versions, thank you, and this is when Paradox shows back up again, telling them that they all did a good job. And with this, we see the basically versions of Link and Nezuko at the what was it? The Celestial Sapien Courthouse asking the Celestial Sapiens to bring back the destroyed universes, which they do somewhat. They don't bring back all of them. They only bring back the ones they seem important. So the universe mainly the universes with Trix users in them are from the universes of the people that helped today. But the universe like where Lincoln and Nezuko ended up in is a no-go, and they're horribly distraught over it, but knows that they can't really argue with reality-bending gods now, can they? If they don't care, then unfortunately there's nothing they can really do about the situation at all. But along with the fact that their universe is brought back, along with everyone they killed, and thus Paradox takes the two boys back there to the moment that the Carna and Purgatrix were found. Wait, no. He takes them back to when the universe was destroyed, but thanks to the Celestial Sapiens wiping the memory of the Watch away from everyone, it's more bittersweet for Link and Nezuko, as now they're just... And from this point on, a lot of people could tell changes from Link and Nezuko. In this timeline, they don't get the will to meet all. Actually, no. All Might hasn't found his successor yet in this world. And thus, eventually... Actually, yeah, no, I'm gonna make this... Yeah, no, All Might's successor is Meteor in this universe, but yeah, a lot of the League of Villains is dead, too, I mean... So yeah, All For One's plan is kind of on its ass in this timeline, so things just move on forward. With Lincoln and Nezuko crippling from the PTSD and trauma of what they've went through, which they eventually break. They eventually tell people, i.e. Jiro, Chandler, Clyde, but really only them, along with the fact that they seek out the plumbers of their timeline, as they've heard about them from the other versions of them, and thus eventually join the plumbers of this timeline. So yeah, but this doesn't mean, but sometimes they can still feel the carnitrix in their arms. Some they can still hear the screams of everyone they've killed. Sometimes they can still see the monsters in the mirror, especially the celestial sapiens, just standing there and laughing at them, but them basically understanding that they'll never be free, which this leads to them having a somewhat mental breakdown, which eventually leads to the two running out into the forest and screaming Paradox's name, telling him to come, begging him to help them. And just when they think he isn't, a blue portal opens up, with Paradox saying that it seems that, well, the boys have come to the decision, and he asks them what they need. And thus they tell Paradox exactly what they want to happen, what they wish never happened to them. And thus Paradox tells the two that this will erase them and their entire timeline from existence and bring them back to that point. With them eventually saying they really didn't care and just wanted this nightmare to end. Well, more like they'll be erased from the timeline, replaced with new versions of themselves, and the fact that their future will be completely altered. Not that, with them saying they don't care, they just can't live like this anymore. They can't suffer like this. And so, Paradox takes them back in the past of their timeline. Right when the fateful day they found those horrible watches. And thus, with using speed, the two are able, right before Lincoln, the past version of themselves can jump into the portal, jump in the ground and grab it. They're instantly grabbed by the energy arm from present Lincoln, with him telling him to just get away from it and run. This is a danger. Being able to basically play off the fact that they're heroes and saying that this is dangerous and to run. And so the two listen. They gush about it a bit, but, Izuku does about Lincoln's quirk, and not noticing that it's an older version of him, and thus, after they run off, they can feel it as they look at themselves and see their hands start to slowly dissolve away into a blue mist. And with them looking at their past selves running away, right before they disappear, they can't help but smile, cry, laugh. With tears streaming down their face, they can't help but laugh. They can't help but be happy that they'll never have to experience this nightmare ever again, before finally disappearing entirely. And Paradox slightly smirks himself and says that no matter what, those two are still heroes to the end. And thus he grabs the carnitrix and the purgatrix and takes it to the celestial sapiens, where it is permanently destroyed. And, nothing like this can ever happen again. That celestial heartburn, Jesus. With the celestial sapiens telling Paradox that nothing like this will ever happen again. And thus, now we switch back to this Carnitrix and Purgatrix timeline to follow this version of Lincoln and Izuku. And after they ran away, Izuku ends up meeting All Might, and thus getting One for All, while Lincoln ends up finding out about his own powers, and the two join the hero course, with eventual magic and Lincoln being able to make it so he also owns One for All, and the two can go down a pretty good path in life, much like the original timeline of My Hero itself. But now that that's over, we take a trip back in time to right after the whole events of the Carnitrix were done, as we see our 4 main timeline version of the boy. Boy's just walking out of the portal, even more traumatized from the events of knowing what happened, but slightly happy to know what they're about to do now, even if it goes against Plumber Code, which Lincoln and Izuku and Chandler and Clyde, although they already broke. But we see the two, which they've been dropped off right after a second after they left. And thus we see the 4 walking to Yue's building, with them eventually coming in, with everyone in the living room. Which, yeah, Aries here too. Just because she's hanging out with Class 1A. And thus, we hear the 4 boys tell them that we have something to tell you. And with that, we'll be leaving this timeline off for just a little bit. Gonna focus a little bit on some more Dragon Ball what ifs for now. Yeah, just focus on some Dragon Ball what ifs for now. Let the story rest for a bit, even more. Which, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, or really just one of those will be helpful. Or, just to know feedback, But with that, Marhan 13.